Morning. Gives a wee bit of time to get on. I hope you enjoyed my visit to Wishaw General Hospital yesterday to have a wee look at what was going on there. Morning, Hugh. Morning, Jim. Morning, John, the driving god. Morning, Charles, Alan, Sheena, Dougie, Karen, Tina, Kirsty, Jacqueline. Where we go here? George, Sandra, Thomas, Lenny, Brian, Robert, Alistair, Linda, Peter, Ali Watson, and Rosie McGregor. Anyway, good morning, folks. Numbers are starting quite nicely. We'll give you a few more seconds to get on board. To say, I hope you enjoyed the video for Wishaw General Hospital yesterday. And I want to thank all you who are going to go and have a look at your own local hospital, and we can collate a picture of what's actually going on in our A&Es. Yesterday, if you hadn't seen the video, I went to Wishaw General. It wasn't a great video, but there was no queues ambulances. Average waiting time at 2:40 in the afternoon was 2 hours. Morning, Trevor. Long time no see, bud. So today I'll be going to the Monklands this evening, and tomorrow morning I will be going to Hairmyres just to get a flavour of how it is through A&Es and North Lanarkshire at different times of the day. As I say, for those of you out there who are going to go along to your own hospitals and have a look at the situation there and send me the information, I really appreciate it. Okay. Right, there seems to be enough keys on board, so let's get this broadcast underway. It's Handy Truck Davey. Put the truck and at home in his office in Sowerby, North Lanarkshire, where it is overcast, 1 degree, snow in the forecast. Okay. Right, that's the weather forecast for Sowerby, North Lanarkshire. You might know what the weather's like, but you all look at your own bloody windy. Right, that's the news review for the 17th of the 1st, 2023 from the colony of Scotland. Tuesday started with only one team in the rags. Westminster Governor General uses Section 35 of the Scotland Act to veto law passed in Scottish Parliament. Most of Tuesday's news was dominated by this issue, and the Scottish Parliament no chuffed, but we'll get more of that as we go through the report. Okay, moving on. Tuesday, and day 2 of the Teachers' Industrial Action goes on. This time, schools in Perth and Kinross and North Ayrshire closed due to the ongoing industrial action. Education Minister Sally-Anne Somerville says she's trying to reach a compromise. Teachers are not impressed. They're not impressed. So this 16 days of rolling strike action will go on. As I say, Monday it was, I've got it written down somewhere. Monday it was Glasgow and East Lothian, I think it was. Yesterday was Perth, Kinross and North Ayrshire. And today the strikes will affect Orkney and Fife. So there you have it. The teachers are on strike in Orkney and Fife today. Okay, as I said yesterday, it's very considerate of the teachers not to go on an all-out strike and bring the economy to a standstill. Right, moving on. Tuesday, and bad weather causes 100 schools in the Highlands and Islands. The Met Office issues an amber warning for the Highlands, North East, Angus, and Fife. Police have advised people in these areas only to travel if absolutely necessary. There's a Davy says here, this story's a cracker. And that's why I'm mentioning it, because who'd have thunk it? Bad weather in winter in Scotland. Wow, mental. Right, moving on. Tuesday, and the Scottish Retail Consortium say that the retail sector had its best Christmas sales in 3 years, with a sales boost of 11% for the final quarter of 2022, and a year-on-year rise in sales of 3.9%, the highest rise in 3 years. The Scottish Retail Consortium Director David Lonsdale said, after 3 years, finally, retailers have something to celebrate. Now, the increase in sales in the fourth quarter of 2022 was driven by people buying warm winter clothing, boots, and energy-saving devices like air fryers, microwaves, electric blankets, things like that. So the bounce in the economy in December was people buying warm winter clothes. They're a shocker, Anyway, moving on, Tuesday, and the boss of one of Europe's biggest energy producers, Andreas Opdal of Equinor Energy, he says that energy prices will not be coming down anytime soon. Mr. Opdal tells the BBC that the transition away from oil and gas will keep bills high for the foreseeable future. In fact, Mr. Opdal says energy costs will go higher than the $2,500 a year for the average household. $2,500 a year for the average household. We know it's going to go up again by another £500 in April, so that'll take the average household bill to £3,000. And David says, 2,500. I'm already 4,200 a year. This is unsustainable. When the price goes up another £500 in April, Davy's facing a £4,700 a year bill for electricity. You get another job. You get 2 jobs. Wow. So, there you go. Europe's biggest energy company says no chance prices coming down anytime soon. Right, moving on. Tuesday afternoon rolls around and Alistair Jack makes a statement to the Commons on the use of a Section 35 order to block the Scottish Parliament's Gender Recognition Reform Bill. A debate follows where opposition benches have a go. The Tories called the Act, the Scottish Gender Recognition Reform Act, an infantile piece of legislation written by children. Labour disapproved of how the government went about issuing a Section 30 order. They think they should have used the 33 order and should have made the Scottish Government amend the bill. But as Alistair Jack, he made it clear there could be no divergence from Westminster. Jack says we can't have a different regime across the UK. The Scottish Lib Dems in Westminster, they blew a fuse, an absolute fuse. The wee woman from Fife went through her dinger, and she said the UK government were driving people towards independence and accused the Tories of not being a unionist party. Right, other accusations levelled at the Tories were transphobic bigotry. And I have to say, some of the speeches were pretty transphobic. I watched it. One Labour MP even get dealt up with a speaker for having a go at one of the Tories for her speech. Anyway, as I say, ungratifying. Nobody's happy about how Westminster went about it, but hey ho. Right, after the debate in Westminster, Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's First Minister, says she'll go to court to defend the bill, but also to defend Scottish parliamentary democracy. She reminds Westminster that this was a cross-party bill, so it's the Scottish Parliament and devolution that's under attack. This will probably end up in the Supreme Court, but first up, it will be taken to judicial review in the Court of Session in Edinburgh, Scotland's version of the Supreme Court. Also Tuesday evening, and the move by Westminster to block the CRR bill is the subject of urgent questions in Holyrood. In the chamber, there was a cross-party anger at the move made by Westminster. Monica Lennon of the Labour Party was not best chuffed, and she said that the Labour Party stands behind the First Minister on defending the bill. The Liberal Democrats also backed defending the bill. And the Lib Dems in the Scottish Parliament think it was an attack on Scottish democracy by Westminster. There seems to be a bit of a shift here, folks. This one really has upset MSPs, with the exception of the Tories, right enough, But even then, even 3 of them were upset because 3 of them had voted for the bill. So it would appear that this will go to the Court of Session for judicial review, and once the Court of Session is given its judgment, it will probably then be advanced to the Supreme Court. Now, also Tuesday, the Pravda have an ex-Supreme Court judge, Lord Hope, on the 9th to try and head off any judicial review. Lord Hope says the GRR does affect or alter the 2004 UK Gender Recognition Act. So the First Minister and the Scottish Parliament have a very low chance of success, and it could cost a huge amount to the public first to take it through all the different stages of the court hearings. But basically, we'll just try to head off a judicial review. Although Lord Hope said there's a low chance of success based on the document put out by Alistair Jack, it would appear that parliamentarians disagree with Lord Hope. And I don't mean Scottish parliamentarians, I mean Westminster parliamentarians, because all the opposition benches were saying that the document put out by Alistair Jack was a flimsy piece of crap, and it was actually they're using transgender folk, an already marginalised section of society, as a political football and an attack on devolution. So there you go. So Lord Hope, he tells the Scottish Government, don't bother your arse, you're just going to waste public money. But he's probably doing that on behalf of the state. But as you know, the other thing that will happen now is that when this does go to court, if the UK government win the way they did in the referendum bill, they'll start talking again about having a go at the Scottish Government for misuse of public funds. So we'll see where that goes, but it's definitely heading for the courts. The Welsh First Minister, Mark Drakeford, also waded into the row, saying Westminster is waging a war against devolution and that this sets a dangerous precedent. Now, the fear is that now that Jack started doing the Section 35 route, any legislation that's different here in Scotland will be vetoed via Section 35. As we know, that was the whole point of the Internal Market Bill. So divergence won't be allowed, and the re-centralisation of power in Westminster is already underway. As I said yesterday, devolution is under attack, and the next thing on that attack will be to try and convince us that all the great advances that were made under devolution, the upgrading of the schools estate, the upgrading of the hospitals estate, the upgrading of the highways, the Queensferry crossing, the baby box, the bus passes at 60 for the elderly, bus passes at 12 to 23 for the young, a lower council tax, better services, all that lot will go under this Internal Market Bill, and eventually they'll try and convince us that devolution is a failed experiment and too bloody expensive, and they'll shut Holyrood down if we don't defend it. But from my point of view, they've already bust the hub. It's time to get out. It's a matter of how quick the First Minister's going to move and whether this will push her along or not. Right, moving on. Tuesday. And the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, gets trolled on social media after he releases a video using coffee cups to explain what was driving inflation. Mr. Hunt had a cup for the global supply chain problems, a cup for the Ukrainian war, and a cup for the energy crisis. Why was Mr. Tory Hunt being trolled on social media? You guessed it, there was no cup for Brexit. No mention of Brexit whatsoever. I mean, it would appear that the Labour and Tory politicians in Westminster are in denial. They don't want to mention Brexit at all. Brexit is the biggest negative effect on the UK economy that's ever happened, and it is probably the biggest act of self-harm that any state has ever enacted against itself in the economic history of this bloody planet. Only a halfwit would have thought leaving your biggest market was a good idea, and it appears there's 23.4 million halfwits living the other side of that border. Ooh. So, very interesting. Mr. Hunt decides to give us all a lesson in economics and what's driving inflation, and he misses the biggest negative effect and inflationary effect on the UK since time began. Right? And that brings us on to the next subject yesterday, and that was the end of year inflation figure for 2022. Month of December seen inflation go up again by 0.2%, so the year ended with inflation on 10.7%. Now, apparently oil and gas prices have fallen, but the main driver at this point in time of inflation is food price inflation. The latest figures released by the Office for National Statistics tell us that staples in the UK rose by 30% in the year 2022. So, what do we mean by staples? Potatoes, bread, milk, eggs, veggies, all up, sugar, all up by at least 30%. They tell me that porridge oats, believe it or not, have actually risen by 188%, according to the stats from the Office for National Statistics. Absolutely harrowing. But it does back up one of the predictions that David made for 2023. So we tick in Davy's boat. Food price to drive inflation. Food prices to drive inflation. Now, there's going to be wider and more damning food price rises next year. Why? Because UK farmers have planted 22% less crops in 22-23 because of Brexit. They can't get Eastern European seasonal workers to come and pick the crops, and they're not going to let the crops rot in the fields as they did in 21 and 22. So UK farmers are producing 20%, 22% less food. Simple as that. That will see food price inflation go through the bloody roof towards the end of next year. So food price inflation, a high electricity costs are here to stay. Not the best in news, is it? Absolutely horrific. Right, moving on Tuesday, and nurses in England to stage 2 12-hour strikes, crippling 1 in 4 hospitals and other NHS services such as midwifery. The UK government is still refusing to sit down with the nurses and negotiate. Nurses here in Scotland have suspended any chance of strike action in an attempt to come to an agreement with the Scottish Government. The difference between here and down that road is that here the Scottish Government are negotiating with trade unions, are trying to find a compromise. Down that road, they're not even talking to the trade unions, the nurses, the National Union of Nurses, the College of Nurses, they're not even talking to them. They're hiding behind the peer review bodies down there like a big shield and saying, we're giving you, name heard of what the peer review bodies have recommended, 3%. Steve Baker, the health minister down that road, nobody's calling for him to resign, but a lot of them calling for him to get into a room with the nurses and get it sorted out. We also find that the UK government and the UK health minister is trying to put the blame of any harms that come from these strikes on the nurses. But the truth, of course, is the problem is Westminster itself and the Westminster government, who intend to break the trade unions. That's why they're introducing this minimum service bill. That's one that's going to see them in the court. The PCS union, who are also holding strike action, have said that criminalising their members is not a great idea, especially as their members are the ones that secure our borders. Very funny. Anyway, the PCS says they're going to take the Westminster to court. The Scottish Government says they're going to take Westminster to court to stop this minimum service bill. Labour seem to be against it and all, but you know, like Starmer is, he's a red Tory, so you don't really know whether he means these things or not. And we're talking about strikes. It would appear that ministers admit that it would be cheaper resolving the disputes with the rail workers than what it would be to allow the strikes to continue. Why is that? Because the train operators are being compensated by us, the taxpayer, every time the RMT go on strike. So the train operators haven't lost a penny. It's cost hundreds of millions of quid to get the train operators while the strike action goes on. So that's absolutely nuts. It would have been cheaper to settle with rail, with the RMT, by giving them what they wanted and inflation levelling pay rise than what it is to allow the strikes to go on. Talk about misappropriating public funds. Wow. That's nearly as bad as PPE scandal. Or the VIP lanes. Compensating their mates who operate the trains. When the workers in the railway go on strike. It's cost more than what it would have been to settle with them, according to ministers. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So there you have it. Strike action continues, and they're going to coordinate a day pretty shortly where 100,000 public servants will go on strike at one time. That will really have a right boot up the economy's bahookie and slap the government right across the kisser. All right. Right, the other subjects I picked out to speak about for yesterday's news. I hope you found them interesting. I hope you found them informative. And I hope you found the delivery entertaining. Right, let's have a quick run down and see what rags I've got to say today. Then we'll bugger off and let you go on. I've got a host will visit. So, Scotland's paper. Gender bill faces court fight and food prices soar. Well, you know what to say. The Herald, UK government has no showstopper to halt war. So it would appear that the Herald disagrees with Lord Hope and that the Scottish government will likely be successful in court. Right, the Looney Rag, the Express has. Block bill may have had serious impact, says Jack. And apparently it would impact a wider UK equality laws, including women's rights, apparently. But we know that's not true because it had to comply with the 2012 Equalities Act. But what we're finding now is they're no citing it breaking the 2012 Equalities Act. They're not even arguing that it's out with the competence of the Scottish Government or the Scottish Parliament. What they've had to do is go back and find the 2004 Gender Recognition Act, RUK, which of course is a different regime for what was here in Scotland, and they're saying it's that act that we breached. All right, the National has. You have made a big mistake. First Minister warning to Westminster. She confirms the Scottish Government will go to court over its veto over gender bill. MP tells Jack he hasn't a clue after Section 35 move defended. European politicians issue condemnation. Labour civil law as MSPs criticise Starmer's comments. There you go, Scottish Labour. They go to war with Starmer over this one, and Monica Lennon was at the front of that. The Scotsman has. Sturgeon claims UK stoking culture war on gender bill. And it also has previous First Minister Henry McQueish, and he says Westminster has to grow up and realise devolution is a reality, or people will slip towards independence. Somebody going to tell McQueish to come off the fence, but what I decided, independence is where we're going. Scottish Social Attitude Survey. 61% of Scots believe that all decisions affecting Scotland should be made in the Scottish Parliament. Right, the Scottish Daily Mail has, or Daily Mail, the other loony rag, SNP accused of weaponising gender clash. The SNP have done nothing such thing. And apparently, nationalists attack for using vulnerable children to stoke row as Sturgeon pledges new court showdown over controversial bill. Nothing controversial about it. It was one of the most scrutinised pieces of legislation ever to go through Holyrood. Now, whether you agree with the gender recognition reform bill or no, this is a time to protest that our democracy is being undermined again. Right, what's the Times got for us today? The Times has got levelling up is so 2019. Sunak's Tories are now gouging up, and so they are. They're falling their pockets before they head for the hills. And gender bill faces court battle. And the Tory graph has trans law may drive women from clubs. Never heard so much push. These single-sex spaces, folks. Now, say, as an engineer, I've always had to just build floaty toilet 40 ceiling cubicles. You know, changing rooms. You know, that's the engineering solution. That's how the BBC get run it. With their equalities. The BBC only uses one toilet. It has a shared toilet facilities. Once you're in it, you look the door. Nobody can see you and they get near you. The Metro has food prices go up by 30%. Well, I guess they read the same report as Davy did last night, eh? Cost of staples such as milk and cheese soar in annual supermarket tracker. The Daily Rancid has outrage. Food prices rise by 15% on average at supermarkets. Instant porridge oats breakfast soars by 188%. Guess the Record read the same report as David did it all. Right, the eye has stopped forcing families on prepaid meters, Sharp warns energy companies. Grant Sharp has warned energy companies to stop forcing people on prepaid meters. Because apparently the electricity suppliers are those that sell retail anyway, are forcing people onto prepaid meters, even vulnerable people who they're not allowed to cut the lecky after. All right. Let's see what the Stars got for us today. What's the Star got for us today? Where is it? The Daily Star of Scotland. Huge if true. The truth is out there, and there, and there, and there. Republican congressman says Joe Biden has covered up multiple UFO sightings. Oh, well, here we go again. And he claims truth is there for all to see in Bible. Ezekiel 1, 4 to 28. Since you're asking, I wasn't asking. But as usual, with the Daily Star of Scotland, the headline's way out there. In this case, it's outer space, to be honest with you. And I see some of the comments with the gender right and recognition act. Print to men are the problem, not transport. Well, you know, in the debates yesterday on the gender recognition act, gender recognition reform bill being blocked here in Scotland, it was pointed out in the Scottish Parliament that 44 other countries have the same legislation, and Westminster has no objection to those people coming here with their gender recognition certificates. So why should Scotland be any different? But apparently predatory men, and the fears are this thing, and predatory men, and these 41 other countries we're talking about, it appears that doesn't seem to be a problem. This whole thing's been overegged. Because there are other countries out there that have this legislation in place, but apparently predatory men using gender certificates to access women's spaces isn't a problem in these other lands. Simple as that. Right, that's my hope here today, folks. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it informative. Remember, the Freedom Chain, pop on the Freedom Chain Facebook page, sign up. We're looking for 70,000 people to make a people chain from Glasgow to Edinburgh. Support the independent media support broadcast of Scotland, Independence Live and the Live Radio, Caledonian Media, Trues Radio, the iSport magazine and the national newspaper. Support independent bloggers and bloggers. And if they've got a crowdfunder on the go and you can throw some shekels in the pot, then please do. As I say, don't want your money. If you like what we do, please share it in your social media platforms. But I always admit, as I stick me again, either that or you guys are getting bored with me because the share ratio of my videos are down. The viewing figures are holding steady about 1,000, though, so that's not too bad. But the two Davies shows doing well. It's really starting to take off now, I'm pleased to say. But thank you all for watching anyway. Now, follow the last couple of bits of guidance. We're still in the middle of a winter flu pandemic. We're still in the COVID pandemic. A winter flu outbreak. We're still in the COVID pandemic. Hospitals are under pressure. They are. Just because the A&Es are not as busy as what we're being told, or the one I visited yesterday wasn't as busy as we're being told, and waiting times weren't as bad as what we're being told, doesn't mean there isn't hot spots across Scotland. We'll probably find that Glasgow has got real problems with a mass population of that size. There's probably more problems in Edinburgh what there is here in North Lanarkshire. So there might be problems in Aberdeen. So if you guys can find out for me, for popping along to your local hospitals and seeing if there's queues of ambulances outside and how busy your A&E is, and let me know. Maybe we can build a wee map to see where the hot spots are. Okay, dokie. Anyway, thanks very much for tuning in today, folks. And have a nice day. Look after yourselves, look after each other, especially in this cold snap. Look after your elderly neighbours, because I can't see my elderly neighbours being able to pay 80 quid a week for electricity the way I am.